What's going on, YouTube family? Welcome to Automotive Life. My name is Lucky, and today we're going to be talking about how car values continue to fall. Now, if you've purchased a vehicle in the last 3 years, you've probably noticed a significant change in your vehicle value, which even more scarier is in the last 60 days, we've seen major changes in vehicle values, and I wanted to give you guys an update. So I'm going to go ahead and break out my computer so this way we can go over numbers. Now, we're going to be using MMR, which is basically wholesale auction numbers for vehicle values, just to show you currently what's going on. Now, the first vehicle we're going to go over is a 2021 Tesla Plaid. Now, recently I made a video talking about how Tesla dropping the price 4 times in a single year is going to have massive effects when it comes to vehicle values. And believe it or not, I was met with a lot of criticism. People thought that I was greedy. Why are you mad that Tesla's dropping their prices? That's a good thing. It can make it more affordable for people. But I'm like, what about the people that have bought these cars for the last 10 years? They're the ones that are going to be effective. And here's the proof. You could have bought a Tesla Plaid 1 year ago at auction. The average price was about $101,000. Now we're going to go ahead and only go back 6 months. 6 months ago, you could buy a Tesla Plaid for $81,000. Now, in the last 30 days, you could purchase a Tesla Plaid for only $67,000. Now, that's almost $40,000 in vehicle value dropped from last year. This is truly heartbreaking if anybody's bought one of these vehicles. I did a video about my friend that purchased one, and this is literally why he got offered $60,000 from Tesla when he traded it in. And the more scarier thing is, if you look at future projections, which shows next month's vehicle pricing, they're saying that the average one is probably going to go for probably about $64,000 at auction. So there's another few $1,000s lost in just the next 30 days. So I'd love to hear from all the Tesla fanboys. How do you feel knowing that the vehicle value of your car has dropped significantly every single time Elon Musk basically dropped the price on a brand new Tesla? This is something I'm definitely interested in, so put it in the comment section below. The next car we'll be talking about is the 2020 Corvette C8. Now, this car was highly anticipated. When it first was announced, they winded up selling out of orders for the first year. Now, back then, you can actually get them with no markup over MSRP. But literally, once the pandemic started, everybody got smart and said, you know, we're going to charge $10, $20, $30, $40, $50,000 over MSRP. So there are a lot of people that paid, you know, I'd say on average about $20,000 more than MSRP on this particular vehicle. So let's see how they're doing now. So about a year ago, you could buy one of these things at auction for about $83,000. And the last 6 months, didn't drop too much, only about $500, $82,000. But in the last 30 days, it's dropped to $72,000. That's $10,000 cut off the vehicle value. Now you may be asking yourself, why did the vehicle value drop so much in the last 30 days? The reason is because you don't have to pay over MSRP to go get a Corvette. You can go to almost any dealership and they're literally sitting there right now brand new. And a lot of people walked away from their allocations, so the demand is simply not there. Now this $72,000 marker, I think this is gonna drop a lot lower. They're saying it's around $70,000 for next month. I think it's gonna be somewhere around 65 to 67. This was one of the most popular cars that Turo people bought, a lot of the ballers on the budget, and we've seen a lot of people try to trade these cars in for the new Z06s or the new models, and these guys basically put 30,000 miles on these Corvettes, and they owe $120,000 on this car when the wholesale value is somewhere around $70,000 to $60,000. So they're massively upside down. I think this is going to drop like a rock once people start getting repoed. So I'm actually pretty glad I didn't buy a C8 because I think in the next 6 months, you'll be able to get the C8 you want. Now, another car that was extremely popular was the Ford Bronco. This is a car that I personally actually tried to go get. I found one here in Las Vegas. The MSRP was, I believe, $46,000 or $42,000. I went over there, told them I wanted to buy it, and they wanted to charge me $20,000 over MSRP to take this vehicle. I basically laughed at him, said I'll never pay that, and ended up walking away. And they sold it, and a few other ones sold, but now you can go to almost every Ford dealer and you see quite a few Broncos sitting around there, and you see a ton of them on Car Gurus for sale. People that paid way too much money and now they're not getting it. So let's see how the vehicle values of the Ford Bronco are doing. So last year, you can buy one of these things for around $62,000 at auction, okay? And the last 6 months, only $62,900, so it actually went up a few $100s. So if we look in the last 30 days, $51,000 $900. So we lost $10,000 in value in the last 60 to 90 days. Why is that? Once again, this is another vehicle that you can go to your Ford dealership and buy right now at MSRP, not have to pay it up. And there are so many of these things for sale online. I believe, and I know personally friends that had 3 or 4 allocations for these cars that bought them and turned around and sold them. And once they sold them, they went back, put deposits on more cars and did the same thing. So a lot of people are basically giving these cars away now because they're just simply not worth it and they can't flip them for the money. This is another vehicle I believe that's going to drop even further. Now, next month's prediction is saying somewhere around $50,000. I think it's going to be more like $48,000 to $47,000. Let's pick a vehicle that most Americans can relate to. Now, we're going to go over a Ford F-150, which is the most popular selling truck in the United States. This is a 2020 F-150 4x4 XLT. Just a good baseline truck, V8 4x4. You're looking at around $34,000 in wholesale value last year. And the last 6 months, it was $33,000, so not much of a drop. And today, you're looking at $31,000. Not that much of a drop either. They're really staying kind of level. And you may ask yourself, well, why is this? Why aren't they dropping crazy? The reason is because this is a good, solid, affordable work truck. If you try to go to a new dealership now and try to buy a brand new Ford F-150, you're looking at anywhere from $60,000 to $70,000 for a comparable truck, which is absolutely insane. So it's not affordable anymore. So a lot of people are actually keeping their more affordable older trucks and driving those instead of going out and buying the new ones. This is a perfect example of how good, basically $30,000 to $40,000 cars are gonna maintain their value. Trucks that are like $80,000, $60,000, $70,000 are gonna start dropping in value and price because they're just simply not affordable for the regular person. So watch vehicles like this truck maintain its value for the next few years. Now, it's not all sunshine and rainbows for Ford. We're going to talk about the Ford Lightning, and I have a family friend, he's probably watching this right now, that purchased one of these 2023 Platinum Lightnings. Now, the MSRP on his truck, I believe, was like $96,000, and he had to pay $25,000 over MSRP to get his name on the list at a local dealership here in Las Vegas. So he paid, let's say, $120,000 for this truck. Let's see how it's doing. If you look at last year's prices, there was nothing because obviously it was brand new. There wasn't really anything out there. But if we look 6 months ago, you could buy one of these things for $87,000 at auction. So from 120 in 6 months, they dropped to 87,000. And that's not even the worst part. The last 30 days, you could purchase things on average of $73,000. Now, why did the vehicle drop so much so quickly? Because we all know cars depreciate, but this just fell off a cliff. Well, there's a number of reasons why. A lot of the people, once again, that bought the Lightning bought the allocations. Ford was basically raving that the first 3 years of production of the Ford Lightning were sold out and you can't get them. But then what happened when the truck started hitting the road? All the YouTubers making the videos, the complaints, people bitching about the charging systems, the batteries dying, the unlimited recalls, issues, complaints, just it basically spelled doom and gloom for the Ford Lightning. Now, here's another interesting thing. If you look 6 months ago, the average miles that you would see on one of these vehicles was around 2,600 miles. But if you look at the last 30 days, the average vehicle miles is around 509 miles. So these are all brand new, low mileage cars that people probably bought just to flip, drove them around for a little while and realized they're a piece of shit and winded up getting rid of them. So I believe that this is another vehicle that's going to drop like a rock when it comes to vehicle values. If you have one of these things, get rid of it now. You can buy it back in 6 months for probably half the price. So before I go into the next car, I want to tell you guys a little bit about some of the changes that are coming to the channel. Now, right now we do videos on Monday and Friday talking about the automotive industry, but I also build cars. I just don't really show it. And after SEMA, it really hit me that I want to start showcasing some of this stuff on the channel. I got a lot of people asking me about how I buy and sell cars, but they want to see the physical process. So here pretty soon on Wednesdays, we're going to have Workshop Wednesdays where we're actually going to take you inside the facility, inside our shop, and show you how we're buying, fixing, selling cars, and also building amazing projects. So make sure you stay tuned for that. Now, the next car we're going to be talking about is my absolute favorite. This is the one I always use when I talk about how vehicle values have dropped. It's the Crypto Bros' favorite vehicle, the G Wagon. Now, these things fell like a rock. I remember during the pandemic, people lost their minds trying to buy these things. Everybody wanted to flex on social media. They were selling for $100,000 over MSRP. And this was a regular normal thing. Some of the more rare ones, like the G Squares, were going for $150,000 to $200,000 over MSRP. So let's go ahead and see what the vehicle value of a 2020 G63 Mercedes G Wagon goes for. Now, G63 is the top model, and this is the one I really want to show because we all know the lower ones usually drop in value, but the high option models for Mercedes usually keep their value a little bit better. But let's see how we're doing. So let's go ahead and see what you can get a G Wagon for at auction. About a year ago, you would be paying $172,000. Fast forward 6 months, you're looking at paying an average of $154,000 for a G Wagon. So basically in 6 months, you lost about 20 grand. Now, fast forward to today, you're looking at an average of $142,000 for the average price. So that's a $30,000 drop from a year ago and $10,000 difference from the last 6 months. And I believe these are also going to drop much, much faster than what this is anticipating. Because what the market's projecting, it says next month they're probably going to drop to $139,000. I think this is actually going to go lower than that. I think it's going to go about $128,000. The value is simply not there. There are so many of these things hitting the market. This is the #1 repoed luxury SUV in the market. So I believe a lot of these things are coming back. And as these crypto bros go broke and they can't sell their NFTs and they're basically losing their ass, you're going to see more and more of these things hitting the market. Now, here's another interesting one. This is the Hummer EV truck. Now, these also were very popular. People lost their minds, and they're supposedly sold out for 3 years, according to GM. So I remember people paying $100,000 over MSRP for this particular vehicle too, which was absolutely crazy. You were seeing these things from $180,000 to $225,000. So let's see how they're doing now 1 year later. So last year, if you would have bought one of these things, you're looking at about $175,000 of the average price when it goes to auction. Now, this is when they were hot to trot and everything's were going well. If we look 6 months ago, there's no number. You want to know why? It's because all the people that bought these Hummers saw how the prices were dropping so fast and how people couldn't afford these cars. They didn't want to take them to the auction because they owed so much money. They were still hoping dummies would actually roll into the dealership and pay way over MSRP for a car that simply wasn't worth it. And they were rejecting the idea of taking these things to the auction. So they decided not to. They wanted to hold it. So now we fast forward in the last 30 days, you're looking at $118,000. That's $60,000 in value wiped out in less than a year. And this is another one I think that's going to drop like a rock, because if you look the next 30 days, they're guessing it's going to be somewhere around $106,000, which is right around the real MSRP for the vehicle, because we're going to go from 118 to 106. I think that more people are going to be able to buy these things from the dealer at MSRP. And I've seen people actually trying to sell their allocations for like $5,000, $10,000. So every time one of these things go to the auction and they sit there on Car Gurus, you can look at average days on market. For this particular vehicle, I think it's like 116 days. It's really, really high. They're just not moving. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a beautiful truck. I would love to have one. But you bet your ass I'm not going to pay 170, not even 118 grand. I will pay MSRP for one of these, but I'd rather buy one back a book that's used. Now, here's another market that absolutely blew up during the pandemic. It was sports cars and exotic cars. At this time, there were so many people that were becoming entrepreneurs and doing their scams and crypto stuff that exotic cars basically exploded into value. Now, Lamborghinis have always been a great car that you can get for at MSRP. But since so many people started getting this money, they started putting deposits down, these things shot through the roof. I remember me personally trying to buy a 2020 Lamborghini Huracan for, I think it was about $230,000. And then the guy winded up not selling it to me, raised the price to $275 because he said that he couldn't find any other ones for sale in the market. And that's when I knew the market was basically going to go stupid. These things were selling for $275,000 to $300,000 during the pandemic. So let's go ahead and see how the market's doing right now. Now, if you look where it says last year, you notice that there's nothing there because these cars were still really popular up to about 18 months ago. People were still buying them, trading them, and a lot of people paid way too much money and they couldn't trade them in for a new one. Well, now that the market's cooled off, people are starting to get their new allocations for Lamborghinis and Ferraris, the traditional buyers. All the people that basically couldn't afford these cars are now having to start to sell these things in the market. That's why you see this number pop up in the 6-month markers, because basically the market's turning to shit. So 6 months ago, you could buy these things for about $162,000 at auction. Fast forward to today, you're looking at an average of $238,000. So almost $30,000 in value lost in the last few months. And I believe this one is also going to fall off a cliff. I think that the average value of this car in the next 45 days is probably going to drop somewhere around 210 to 220. There's so many of these things on the market right now, and I personally know a lot of these guys cannot afford their payments. So these are things that are going to be going to the auction. I've seen some of these actually run through the auction with like 20,000 miles, going for $175 to $200K. So I think the values are going to drop a lot more. So if you're looking at buying an exotic car, please be patient and wait. So the last car of the day is a Lamborghini Urus, which is also another Crypto Bros car. These things were extremely popular with them, the rental car community. People just absolutely loved them. And when people fell in love, they started paying top dollar because these things were going way, way over MSRP. I remember seeing these things over 300K during the pandemic, which was pretty crazy. So let's see how the market is on them now. If you were to buy one of these cars a year ago at auction, you would pay $230,000. Let's go ahead and go back to 6 months. You're looking at paying an average of $204,000 at auction. And today, if you were to go in the last 30 days to buy one of these things at auction, you're probably going to be close to around $182,000. Now, the forecast projection says that this is going to bring about $180,000 in the next 30 days. I think that number is going to be much, much lower because the luxury SUV market has the fastest declining vehicle value of any of these in the group. It also has the highest amount of delinquencies and deficiencies, and we're seeing these things given back at record numbers as well. So everything spells really doom and gloom if you own a luxury SUV. Like I said, this unfortunately is trending in a very bad way, and these numbers are going to get worse and worse, I think, every single month. But I would love to know your opinion about the automotive market, so please put in the comment section below. What do you guys think? Do you own one of these cars? Do you own it outright? Do you own a lot of money? What cars do you think are safe bets for people to buy? I would love to hear from you guys in the comment section below. Also, remember, we are doing automotive content Mondays and Fridays, but we're going to be bringing Workshop Wednesdays here to the channel where we're actually going to be physically working on cars that we're flipping, also doing very fun builds to show you a little bit of everything about the automotive industry. But once again, if you can like and subscribe, I would truly appreciate it. It means a lot to me. I was hoping to get to 500K this year. I don't think we're going to do it, but if you guys help push, I think we might get there. Also, follow me on Instagram at Lucky Lopez, and we'll see you next video.